I appreciate you hanging out with us. I am Rob Ellis. He is Derek Gunn. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Without further ado, we bring on our next guest to discuss the Eagles and Patriots game this Sunday at 4:25. Does an awesome job covering the Pats.
Yeah.
NBC Sports Boston. He also putts one-handed, and you can also call him the Lakeville Dagger. Whatever you need to do, you do it. Tom Curran, what is up, Tom?
What's up, man?
Rob, D-Gun, thank you for having me. How you doing? I just put my phone on silent.
Look at you. We're already ahead of the game, Tom. Most folks don't even do that, so thank you. We like the shirt, too. You're styling, man. Good
love it.
It's a million degrees up here. Is the same thing down there?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Gunner, this stuff, guys like you and I melt, Tom. The Irish skin just melts, man.
I love this weather.
Yeah.
Big sombrero at all times. You know, I honestly, not to veer too far from the topic before you guys get a chance, but I do think the weather will impact this first game significantly, especially for the Patriots, who haven't had continuity on their offensive line yet. They got a number of guys going to be out there who haven't played. Calvin Anderson, Cole Strange, Michael Wenu, and they're going against the best front in football. That's going to be a factor.
Yeah, Tom, that's where I was going to go with you first. From an Eagles perspective, if their D-line can't win, I think that it's a Patriot game or it's really close. How banged up are these guys? We know Reef is already out, but will the others that you just mentioned, do you think they'll be playing, or is it still up in the air right now?
The hope is that they will all be out there. Now, Cole Strange, I think, seemed like he had an MCL maybe the second day of contact practices, and he's been practicing this week. I briefly talked to him, and yesterday he said, I'll be good. I'll be good. Mike Wenu had an off-season surgery, so he didn't play in any of the preseason games. We didn't see him in any of the training camp practices. So he's an X factor. He's a very, very good player, though. Borderline Pro Bowl type player. PFF loves him. And then Calvin Anderson battled an illness, which we still don't know exactly what it was, but that's kind of moot, personal situation. But the bottom line is he didn't play in the preseason either. So this is a representative, not a great, not an exceptional offensive line, but a representative offensive line when they're all healthy. But if you have to cycle those guys out for reps, then you're going to be getting into rookies, and that's an issue.
Yeah.
Tom, since Bill O'Brien has now been the mentor, so to speak, to Mac Jones, you've watched the preseason games, you're out there for the practices. What have you noticed that's different about Mac? Because all we've heard is these rave reviews about how much different he looks and how much better he looks and how much more of a command he has of the offense now. What have you noticed, so to speak?
Organization more than anything, D. Organization, precision, no wasted time. It's more, say you had somebody lead you into the woods. You were a very good guide, which is what Josh McDaniels was. And then the next time, all of a sudden you turn around, you got a guy who knows less than you do about where you are.
Yeah.
Then they parachute in a new guide who's pretty much just as good as the other guy, and you now have your own experience of trying to be your own guide, and you have this guy, you feel like you're about to blaze a trail. And I think that's kind of what Mac Jones is right now. He's rejuvenated in some ways after a very, very trying 2022.
Tom, we sort of lived this years ago. Andy Reid, at sort of the end of his tenure, brought Juan Castillo over as a defensive coordinator when he was an offensive line coach his whole career, right? And we're all saying this is either ingenious or this is chaos and spells the end. You know, that's not a good look for Bill. I know he's Bill Belichick, but man, if that's any other coach, he's getting destroyed for that move last year.
And he got destroyed too. I mean, he got absolutely annihilated. I think nationally, the conversation where people are dumbstruck by the idea that Bill Belichick would be at least on notice, perhaps even on the hot seat. People can't believe that. If you look at that decision, if you look at the Brady decision, if you look at the drafting, if you look at the free agent signings, all of it added up has been a very, very, very strong cold streak for Bill Belichick. But I think more than anything else, when he made that decision, and maybe Andy was similar, there was an underestimation of just how hard the job was between Charlie Weiss, Tom Brady, Bill O'Brien, Josh McDaniels, Dante Scarnecchia, their offensive line coach. It was plug and play every year. And I think after Josh left, it's like, well, how hard can it be? We're all good coaches. Pretty friggin' hard.
Yeah, we saw that. How much did it set Jones back, Tom, in your estimation? Or is that just gone and now he's he's back to the guy you saw rookie year with so much promise?
That's a good question. It was less damning and damaging than an injury because, again, I said this before the season began, Mac Jones is going to learn resilience in 2022. I said that in August, and that by the end of the year, I think was a big aspect of you learn stuff. When you guys are at work and it's bad, you have to, at some point, you have to say, all right, I've been a baby for the last couple of days. I got to suck it up because it's not going to get any better with me being a baby. And he did that. And I think that as a result, you're going to get a better guy under center.
Right.
Hey, Tom, has Belichick gone soft in the twilight of his career? I mean, he's extending accolades to Mac Jones. He's called Jalen Hurts one of the top 3 players in the game. Is the hoodie going soft?
Those are, he was very, very, very stingy with any Mac Jones compliments, even going as far as to not utter the words that he was the starter. Now, I got the concept of why he wasn't doing that. He didn't want anything to be granted. And then if he says he's okay, he's a starter, then we go, well, how about right tackle? And then he's like, So that was his mindset. But so he resisted that for a long time with Mac because he was pissed at him. Same thing with Jalen Hurts. There was a reason behind it, the reason being they're about to play. And the best way to capture the attention of his team is to say, this guy was second in the MVP voting. Are you kidding me? Right. This isn't just a quarterback who might be pretty good. He's one of the best in the league, which I totally agree with because of the variety of skills. Where he has gone different is days off, lighter practices, less hitting. Now, again, we're not out there for every single practice, especially now that the training camp's over. But, there were some occasions where I'm like, that's it? That's all they're doing? They're off today? Really? Some of it's mandated by the NFLPA, but some of it seems as if Bill manages guys a little bit differently. Like Trent Brown got 1 million days off, 1 million in this preseason. And to the point where you're like, shouldn't he go out there and play since they can't run plays without the left tackle out there because the guys out there instead aren't doing it? So he's different.
How's the relationship with Kraft and Belichick? I mean, is this basically, you can't even think about running this guy out? I mean, it's going to be Bill's call when he leaves, or is it not? I mean, where are they with each other?
Yeah, I try to do this a lot because I get this question a lot. Yeah. And I continue to revisit the stories that make national headlines and remind people. Robert Kraft has called out Bill Belichick's drafts. He's called out Bill Belichick's free agent acquisitions. He's pointed out that the team had gone, as of last year, 3 years without a playoff win and said he was impatient. This year, when asked about Bill Belichick breaking Don Shula's record, he said he'd like that to happen. But this team has never been about statistics and numbers. Robert Kraft wants production. He doesn't want a team that has one of its best players throwing it backwards over his head against the Las Vegas Raiders when the game is tied in 20 seconds or less.
That was unbelievable.
He doesn't want to see 2 kickoff return touchdowns in the season finale when there was still a glimmer of hope for that team to get to the playoffs. So, look, if it's a representative Bill Belichick Patriot team, which it hasn't been for a little while, then no, Robert Kraft is completely at ease with making no decision at all. If it looks like it did last year, it's dysfunctional, the quality control is poor, forces his hand.
So you're saying Belichick's on the hot seat? Dare we say that?
Can we Google that? Belichick hot seat. We've said it 1 million times. This is not breaking anymore. We did this last week and the week before.
Come on, D-Gun.
I mean, no, it's I'm saying this, Derek, because you know how we work.
Yeah.
All our NBC Sports affiliates, we have plenty of shows we have to do.
Yeah.
Do you know how many Bill Belichick hot seat segments we've done since February?
Yeah.
I can't keep firing this guy. He's the best there's ever been.
Yep.
But yeah, he needs to coach and have his team perform like his teams used to, or I think everything's on the table.
So then that leads to the question, how good's this team in your estimation, Tom? I mean, they're in a brutal division. Yes, O'Brien's probably going to go a long way to helping turn this thing around, no doubt, offensively. And they're a very good defense. But are they good enough to be a team that not only gets into the playoffs, makes a playoff run?
They're better than people think. And I think that they will finally, once again, be a team that good teams have to be wary of. Get this stat. over the last 3 years against playoff-bound teams, the Patriots are 3-13.
Whoa.
Oh,
And the 3 wins, get this, the 3 wins, one was that wind game against Buffalo when they didn't run the ball.
That's right.
oh,
Excuse me, they didn't throw the ball.
Yeah.
The other was a win over Skylar Thompson and Teddy Bridgewater, quarterbacking the Dolphins. And the other was against the Titans in 2021 with Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown out. So they could be 0-16 against playoff-bound teams.
Wow.
So they're non-competitive against good teams.
wow.
So they should be better than people think. They need to threaten good teams again.
Huh.
Philadelphia being a great place to start.
Hey, Tom, how has Zeke looked in the backfield to complement Stevenson?
Pretty good. Pretty
Yeah.
good, Derek. Yeah, he's in good shape. He's upbeat, and the few times I've spoken to him, Patriots really, really like him. They think he's smart and understands what he's supposed to be doing. And I think that Ramondre Stevenson's best comp over the last couple of years was probably Ezekiel Elliott in running style, lateral quickness, and the ability to catch the ball coming out of the backfield. So really a great pickup. I still don't understand why he rotted on the vine. I mean, he scored, 12 touchdowns last year?
Yeah, he was very effective short yardage and that kind of thing. Yeah.
So, I mean, they got him for barely above the minimum.
Yeah.
And it's a good player. I mean, you look at that or Dalvin Cook, and most people would say Dalvin Cook, but I don't know. It's not that easy. It's not a layup, is it? Am I wrong?
No.
No, I think as long as he's not featured and carrying it 20, 25, not that teams even do that anymore, but carrying it 20 times a game. I think if you pick and choose your spots with him, he can still be very effective. And he's going to get you 3 on a 3rd and 2, which is, I think, where he's going to be really valuable.
That was an issue. That was an issue last year, and they need that.
Let me ask you about Patricia, because we kind of referenced it earlier, but now he's with the Eagles. I don't really know what to make of this, honestly. He didn't have a great relationship with Slay when he was the coach in Detroit, but they've seemed to mend that fence, and that's fine, whatever. Is he brought in your estimation, as more of a safety net for Desai, who is the new defensive coordinator? How did you view the way things kind of closed out with him in New England?
Well, I was never a big Patricia fan as a defensive coordinator. For smoking gun evidence, take a look at the 2017 Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Take a look at the 2017 AFC Championship game. Blake Bortles lit their posteriors up in that AFC Championship game, and they escaped because of Tom Brady.
Right.
Nick Foles lit them up, regardless of if Malcolm Butler was out there or not. And then Matt goes on to take over a team that Jim Caldwell had and drove it directly into the ground. Came back here. The players love him. I'll say that. Aside from the persona he tried to foist upon the players in Detroit, that hard-ass stuff, players really love him. I'm very tight with Gerard Mayo, did the show together with him for years. He swears by Patricia. So does Devin McCourty. So I'm sure that he's a very good people person. But sometimes I think when he gets his hands in the soup, he wants to be involved and has suggestions because he is a smart guy. He knows a lot of football. He should be an asset, as long as he should be more of an asset than a detriment to a team in the position that he's in.
Hey, Tom, speaking of McCourty, he retires. He was like the brain trust in the back end of that defense for so many years. You got a rookie starting at the right cornerback in Christian Gonzalez now. This was a top 8 defense last year that had 54 quarterback sacks. How good is this defense? And obviously, they have not gone through the journey yet, but on paper, what you've seen, how good is this defense compared to what they had last year?
Not nearly as good as people thought last year, not nearly as good as people nationally think this year. This is another prove-it situation. This is not an elite defense.
Okay.
This is a defense that got their heads caved in by Justin Fields, their heads caved in by Lamar Jackson. They got ripped apart by Davis Mills in 2021 before they came back and beat the Houston Texans. They've been non-competitive against the Buffalo Bills. They were life and death with Miami after Teddy Bridgewater went out. Colt McCoy had a representative half against them for Arizona. It's very interesting. They have good talent. They have awesome pass rush tools. They have a big kid, Christian Barmore. They had another kid, Keon White. They have smart guys at the linebacker level. I really think You'll take this to heart having seen him. I think Jabril Peppers is just what the doctor ordered in terms of violence, aggressiveness, and emotion to instill that in the defense. Good group, not yet what I would define as top 5.
Okay.
Tom, we know you got to run. We appreciate you giving us a minute just out the door. Who wins the game, do you think, in your estimation?
I think Philly does. It's just too much inexperience on the offensive line for the Patriots. And for the Eagles, if they keep going the way they did and they make you defend for 4 downs, that's a huge, huge aspect to look at in any game. You know, we're going to make you defend us on 4th and 3 because we're going to keep our guys out there. We only need to average 2.5 yards per play against you to get 10.
Right.
And that, to me, is one of the most fascinating aspects of this game. How does Philly operate on 4th down? Do they push all their chips into the middle of the table and say, I don't think your offense is good enough to score 24 against us?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's been Sirianni's MO. Plus, the punter here is shaky, to say the least.
Yeah.
Tom, listen, man, we really appreciate it. That's Tom.
Good to see you, man.
Patriots.
You too, Derek.
NBC Sports Boston. Tom, thanks as always, man. Appreciate your
insight.
All
right, Rob. Take care. Great show. I enjoyed that.
Thank you, brother. Take care.
Thank you very much. That is Tom Curran. Love Tom's insight, his analysis. Derek, you know, it's always interesting when you have a guest on and you learn stuff. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you ask some questions and kind of bat things back and forth, but I thought Tom was really informative with a bunch of stuff there. It doesn't love the defense, isn't totally sold on the defense, which I thought was interesting.
That's what I love about Tom. He's the best of the best in that region, covering that team. He's honest, forthright, insightful, and gives you a better perspective from what we're looking at from the outside looking in.
Yep.
And the more I listen to him, the more I'm thinking Eagles might win this game by double digits.
Yeah, I mean, that's my takeaway is maybe we're giving the Patriots almost too much credit here.
Yeah.
You know, it did sound like he thinks the offense is going to be better, you know, under O'Brien. And you thought that anyway. He was going to settle them down a little bit. But the defensive thing is what's interesting. And how about 3-13 against playoff teams?
That's just eye-opening. That's shocking to hear that.
You know.
So obviously, you know, the Belichick teams that we respected have for years have not been those teams in recent years. But, you know, I think it's all predicated around the play of Mac Jones.
Yeah.
And he was lost last year. You could tell. Yep. He was considered Rookie of the Year candidate his first year. He set a record for rookie quarterbacks throwing passes without throwing an interception. And people are like, wow, this kid's going to hit the ground running. Had a major setback last year. Now he's got a quarterback guru. And we've heard all these accolades coming out of New England about how different he looks. Right. So everything's predicated around him. But the fact that they could have 2 to 3 of their starting offensive linemen not out there, and the fact, if what Tom is saying that this defense is more average, even though it was the number 8 ranked defense last year, if it's more average than we've been led to believe, this could be a long day for this Patriots team. And if they're playing from behind, what happens when you play this Eagles team from behind? You try to do things out of the norm, which leads to turnovers in favor of the Eagles.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a really good point. Yeah, it was interesting. And also, you know, without saying it, he thinks Belichick is on the hot seat.
Yeah.
You know, if this is an 8-9 season, Derek, where they don't make the playoffs, where they're just it sounds, boy, can you really see Kraft pulling the trigger? Or you think it's one of those deals where it's like Bill might just say, I'm rolling. I'm going to go do my thing and you know, end up somewhere else.
If Kraft keeps taking little side door shots at Belichick, and if Belichick has another losing season, which is very likely in that division, you know, let's face it, in this "what have you done for me lately" league, the fact that they had that great 15-year run and went to all those Super Bowls and won all those trophies means nothing today. You've got to change the complexion. Heck, Andy Reid had 14 years in Philadelphia.
Yep.
And Andy Reid, in hindsight, admitted, you know, it was time for me to leave. Mm-hmm. You know, and maybe Belichick looks at that. Maybe he wants a new challenge. Maybe he's gone as far as he could in life after Tom Brady, and it just didn't work. Maybe he can go somewhere else and get a fresh start, even in this later stage of his career. You know, let's face it. You know, you get in a rut after a while, and sometimes your message falls on deaf ears. Mm-hmm. You know, and if the owner's critiquing your drafts, and the way you go about your business, you know, you get tired of hearing it after a while. Hey, look, when you're winning, it's Camelot. Everybody's happy. Even if things are going bad, when you're winning and you're hoisting those trophies, everybody's happy. But when you start consistently losing like this, the nitpicking becomes more magnified. See,
I think too. Yeah, I agree with you. And Belichick's throwing his own little digs out there too, where he doesn't feel like they're willing to spend as much as they could up to the cap limit. He's thrown his little zings in there too. So they've had little back and forths there. But yeah, I mean, if Tom's analysis is right, even though they do have a good pass rush, the Eagles, it sounds like he thinks the Eagles should be able to score in this game. And if that's the case, they're winning this game, I think, comfortably. Because I don't see New England keeping up with points. The track meet is not what Belichick wants. Track meet is an Eagles game.
No, I don't think the team's built for a track meet. They want to grind you. You know, they want to grind you, control the clock, keep it low scoring, hopefully get some turnovers. I mean, you know, this Patriots team was one of the better takeaway teams in the NFL. They had 30 takeaways. They were tied for second last year.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
San Francisco.
And I think they were third or fourth in sacks. I mean, they got to the quarterback a lot too.
Yeah, they had 54 sacks. I believe they were third.
Yeah.
In quarterback sacks.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some things but this Eagles offensive line is built for that. You know, this offense is built to combat that defense, and we'll find the holes in that defense. If what Tom is saying is accurate, it may take them a quarter or two to figure it out, but they will find the gaping holes in that defense.
I'll tell you what I like.
Affair.
We didn't have time to get to it with them, unfortunately, because they changed the times on Tom.
Player availability, yeah.
With player availability. You know, the whole Brady thing, I've gone back and forth on this. I think it's the emotional pitch part of it is a little bit overrated. Like, if the Eagles come right out and play well, or the halftime ceremony, you know, they come right out, the Eagles do, and they have a time-consuming drive, or then that just all goes right away. The crowd goes quiet, right? Yeah. I mean, but then again, if the Patriots come out and play well, yes, you can ride a little wave off of it. But ultimately, I think that's more of a big deal than it really is, because he's not playing in the damn game. You know,
well, I think the adrenaline rush is a factor for maybe the first couple of series of the game.
Yeah.
You know, you're honoring Brady. It's the season opener. You have it at home. You're playing the Super Bowl runner-up. You know, they're going to be jacked up. The fan base is going to be jacked up. And they're going to have a good contingent of Eagles fans up there also, because the Eagles fans travel so well.
Right.
You're going to, you know, and it's going to be a lot of jaw jacking on the field. You know, the Patriots are trying to turn their complexion around, change the complexion of what they were last year, and they were like nothing better than to get off to a great start against the Super Bowl runner-up. And the Eagles are on a mission. They're on a mission to get back to where they went and rectify the problems that cost them a trophy in 2022.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think there's you only play 17, so there's a lot riding on every single game. There's no question about that. Yeah. But if you're the New England Patriots and you've had sort of mediocre years really since Brady left, and you haven't played well by witness of the 3-13 record against playoff teams, you know, what better game than to show everybody you're back than to knock off the team that went to the Super Bowl here in the Philadelphia Eagles. It's a statement kind of game for them. Absolutely. If they can hit it right out of the chute.
You set the tone for your season with this game coming out of the chute. Let's face it, both teams are going to be a little bit rusty because they haven't played a meaningful game. Yep. Starters haven't played a whole lot, if any. You know, so you're going to come out of the chute just a little bit rusty, but it shouldn't take long for you to get in the groove. You know, if you are what you are, it's not going to take long for you to get in that groove that you want to get into. And that's when the better team is going to separate itself from the other team.
I'm looking up right now because, you know, we know how hot it's been in our area for sure. But I'm looking up Foxborough now and what Sunday is going to be looking like. You know what? It's not going to be terrible. It's going to be 81. It might be a little bit rainy. I think you'll be able to handle that. I don't foresee that being a massive issue there. But nonetheless, I mean, something to keep your eye on if it's really humid, maybe with the first game, because you know we know these guys don't play a lot in the preseason now. It's just the way it is. You know, and conditioning can always be an issue. The Eagles' depth isn't quite what it was last year, but I don't know that the Patriots are all that deep either. So I don't know that that's much of an advantage either way, really.
Well, it could be more taxing for defenses because the offenses know where they're going with the ball. The defense is got to try to figure it out and recover.
Yeah.
And especially if offenses are sustaining drives. That's when you start seeing a lot of guys with hands on hips, hands on their knee pads, sucking air. So it could be more taxing for defenses if they're not generating turnovers, not getting 3 and outs and things like that.
No doubt. Good point. All right, we'll continue with the Eagles a little bit later. We come back. Coach Billy Crocker from Eastern University had their first game last week. We'll go through that, look ahead to Saturday night's contest at Franklin Field. We'll dive into all the details, everything that's going on there with him. We'll also hit the Phillies, more NFL stuff in a little bit as well. Don't go anywhere. That's Derek Gunn. I am Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take. All right, let's talk about Pro Action Restoration. Yes, if you have a home, you have a business, you have a property that you own, and you go through the inconvenience, the pain of water, fire, smoke, mold damage, you know how trying that can be. Well, Pro Action Restoration is on call 24 hours, 7 days a week to assist. I went through it. Happened on a Saturday. At my parents' house, they called me up. They were flooded in their basement. I called Pro Action. I got over there. Man, they cleaned it up quick, and the price was right. The crew was professional. It was a great experience all around. They are licensed, bonded, fully insured. They've been serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades. Pro Action will work in conjunction with your insurance company. So again, if it's water, fire, smoke damage, mold remediation, you name it, they can handle it. Give them a call, 610-623-3760, 610-623-3760, or online at proactionrestoration.com. That's proactionrestoration.com.